There is a device inside her chest right now, smaller than a deck of cards, weighing less than an ounce, and it recorded everything. Every heartbeat, every spike of terror, every moment her body screamed that something was terribly, terribly wrong. For 74 days, the FBI has been fighting to decode what that device captured, and what they found inside that data, inside the final 41 minutes of Nancy Guthrie's last known night at home, is the most chilling forensic revelation in this entire investigation. This is not a theory, this is not speculation, this is her own heart telling the story. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will never look at this case the same way again. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She is a mother, a grandmother, a woman who raised a family, built a life, and in the quiet years that followed, found comfort in the simple rhythms of ordinary days. Dinners with her daughter Annie, familiar hallways, a bedroom she had slept in for years. On the evening of January 31st, Nancy did what she had done countless times before. She sat down to dinner at Annie's home. She talked, she laughed. Her cardiac monitor, feeding data quietly to a device in the manufacturer's cloud, showed something beautiful in its simplicity, a completely normal heartbeat, a woman at peace. Annie's husband Tommaso drove Nancy home that night around 9:50 p.m. The garage door closed behind her at 10:10. That was the last moment of normal, and no one knew it yet. The first sign, something shifts. About 45 minutes after Nancy arrived home, something small happened, something that on any other night would have meant nothing. Her heart rate ticked upward, not dramatically, not alarmingly, just a quiet, brief elevation above her resting baseline, the kind of flutter your heart makes when you hear an unexpected sound, a creak in the hallway, a shadow that shouldn't be there. It lasted a few minutes, then it settled back down. The forensic cardiologists who later reviewed this data described it as consistent with a mild stress response. Something caught her attention, something made her body react before her mind could even name what it was. Was it nothing? A noise outside? A passing car? Or was it the first whisper of what was coming? For the next 2.5 hours, Nancy's pacemaker recorded relatively stable rhythms, a slowing heart rate, the gentle pattern of rest. The data, reviewed later by specialists, was consistent with sleep. She was resting, unaware. The clock was already moving toward 1:47 a.m. At 1:47 in the morning, a masked figure approached Nancy Guthrie's front door. We know this because of Google Nest cloud footage that survived what appeared to be a deliberate attempt to destroy it. The figure carried a backpack, they carried a firearm, and in a matter of seconds, they disabled the exterior camera. The house went dark on surveillance. No more footage, no more external eyes. But inside Nancy's chest, something was still watching. At the exact same moment the camera went offline, in the same narrow timestamp window, Nancy Guthrie's heart exploded into acute distress. Her heart rate didn't drift upward, it spiked, sudden, dramatic, the kind of cardiac surge the human body produces in one specific situation, when it believes it is in danger. When she was startled awake by something that should not have been there. She was not asleep anymore. She was awake, she was aware, and she was terrified. This is where the story becomes something extraordinary. From 47 a.m. when the camera died to 2:28 a.m. when the pacemaker's wireless sync with its monitoring system went silent, 41 minutes passed. 41 minutes with no camera footage, no cell phone data, because Nancy's phone was left behind, no GPS, no witnesses. 41 minutes of darkness. Except for one thing. Her heart never stopped recording. And what it recorded during those 41 minutes is a forensic portrait of an abduction told in beats per minute. The first phase lasted roughly 15 minutes. Her heart rate stayed elevated, sustained, not dropping, not recovering. The pacemaker logged rhythm irregularities alongside it, arrhythmia events. Not life-threatening in a clinical sense, but the kind of irregular rhythms that forensic cardiologists associate with one thing: extreme, prolonged emotional distress. She wasn't calming down. Whatever was happening to Nancy in those first 15 minutes was ongoing, it was frightening, and it was not stopping. Then came phase 2. Beginning approximately 15 to 20 minutes into the window, the data changed character. Modern pacemakers contain accelerometers, the same technology inside your smartphone that knows when you've turned it sideways. Nancy's device used that technology to monitor her physical movement. And what the accelerometer recorded in phase 2 was not Nancy walking through her home. It was not Nancy pacing anxiously. The movement patterns in the data were passive, rhythmic, consistent with a body being carried, transported, moved by someone else through space she had no control over. She was being taken. The data shows it not with words, but with the language of physics, the vibration signature, the sustained movement pattern, the rhythm of a vehicle in motion in the early hours of a February morning. Nancy Guthrie was placed into a vehicle sometime in the middle of those 41 minutes, and the pacemaker, faithfully recording inside her chest, captured every second of the journey. Then came phase 3. And this is the moment that made FBI forensic analysts go quiet. In the final 10 to 15 minutes before the sync cutoff at 2:28 a.m., the cardiac data shifted one more time. Nancy's heart rate, elevated for most of the window, began to show a very specific change. Not a spike, not a crash, something quieter and in many ways more disturbing. The natural variation in her heartbeat began to disappear. There is a measurement in cardiology called heart rate variability, the tiny natural fluctuations in timing between each beat. A healthy, conscious heart has this variability constantly. It reflects the nervous system's ongoing dynamic regulation of cardiac function. When that variability decreases sharply, when the heartbeat becomes too regular, too flat, too controlled, it means the nervous system's influence has been muted, suppressed. It means someone is losing consciousness. The forensic cardiologists who analyzed this data used careful clinical language. They called it a pattern consistent with pharmacological sedation. In plain terms, someone drugged Nancy Guthrie. Somewhere in the darkness of those final minutes before 2:28 a.m., with her heart still beating and the pacemaker still faithfully recording, something was administered to her. Injected, inhaled, something that reached into her nervous system and pulled her under. At 2:28 a.m., the sync stopped. Not because her heart stopped, not because the pacemaker failed, because the wireless bridge between her implanted device and the monitoring system was severed, most likely because she was now too far from her home base unit, moving further away by the minute inside a vehicle traveling south through the Tucson night. She was alive at 2:28 a.m. The data confirms it, but she was unconscious and she was gone. The investigation. The FBI did not wait for theories. Within the first week of Nancy's disappearance, federal agents subpoenaed the cardiac device manufacturer's cloud platform. They didn't ask, they compelled, and the manufacturer complied. What followed was 74 days of painstaking forensic cardiac analysis. Forensic cardiologists, device specialists, manufacturer liaisons, and federal investigators, all working to extract every fragment of meaning from the data that Nancy's heart left behind. What they built from that data was something no surveillance camera could have given them: a physiological reconstruction of the abduction, a timeline built not from witnesses or assumptions, but from the biological truth of one woman's terrified, then sedated, then silenced heartbeat. Someone out there knows what happened in those 41 minutes. Maybe they drove the vehicle. Maybe they acquired the compound. Maybe they just knew and said nothing. 74 days is a long time to carry something that heavy. Nancy Guthrie's heart told its story, timestamp by timestamp, beat by beat. Now it's waiting for the rest of the truth to catch up. If you have any information, any detail, however small, call the FBI tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit anonymously at tips.fbi.gov. A $1 million reward from the Guthrie family remains active. Her heart did its part. Now it's time for someone to do theirs.